weekly. Because we win, that is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show, Bet River sponsors. It's time to start, enjoy the show.
Betting Weekly Live, Thursday, the 3rd of October. You're with Steve Wyss, and Jack Wright has joined me on board the show today. Jackie, I saw you warming up there in the background to the theme tune. How's it going?
Mate, I'm really good. Yes, how are you? Good day to you.
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. A little bit worn down from last night. It wasn't the greatest night for me in the Champions League. It was a terrible day for the public, actually. The sportsbook took a lot of money on the Lille game and the Villa game. I mean, Bayern and Real Madrid were two of the most popular bets. I still don't know how they've actually lost or not even scored a goal between them, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, were you up or down last night, Champions League? I thought those results I thought were a bit wild across the board.
Yeah, I'll be brutally honest. I could blag it because no one's going to know, are they? But no, I had that was my worst day probably for a month, maybe 6 weeks. It was
Wow.
It was a wipeout for me yesterday.
Jeez.
Yeah. It was a wipeout. It's been a very good start to the season for me, but that one did not go my way yesterday at all. But these things happen. We brush ourselves down and we go again. And we have the new theme tune to lift us and lift our spirits into the weekend. So my first time with the new theme tune. Very good.
Yeah, another day, another dollar, and I'm quite relieved that we've got Europa League and Conference League across the. I do find these competitions easier than the Champions League in general, but yeah, plenty to get through. We've got the early matches kicking off at 12:45 Eastern in both Europa and Conference, and then we'll talk about the later kickoffs as well. NFL later on, Buccaneers at Falcons. Big match in Thursday night football. Welcoming everyone, Rick, Clebo, Duncan, Foxy. Good to see you. What's your best bets today? What are you taking in any sport? Let us know. Ask us any questions you want. Duncan says he fancies Porto. Byron, what an opening groove. Yeah, really, the rhythm was there, wasn't it? I think that's a good trendsetter for today. We've got to get straight into the action. Steve says he got rinsed yesterday. Even the late Juve win didn't stop a bloodbath. I don't know anyone who won yesterday.
I'm just reading these comments. And in the words of Michael Jackson, you said you had a bad day. I had a bad day. We were not alone.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, good one, that.
Look at it.
Another pun now. Byron Mirror says Porto, Lazio, and Roma. That's his treble for the day. Let's just have a look. I mean, we've not got all the matches on the graphic here. There's just too many. We don't want to bamboozle everyone. But here are just a selection of games that I drew up earlier from John R. Graphics guy. Lazio Nice is an interesting one. Qarabag against Malmo. A long trip to Azerbaijan there for the Swedes. And RFS, a shout out to them, the Latvian side, first team ever to be in the Europa League from their own country against the Turkish champions Galatasaray. I'm actually going to start us off with a bet here, and it is in the RFS game against Galatasaray. And for me, I think two bets stand out. I think over 3 Asian goals at -124, and I think Galatasaray on the handicap -1.5. For those who actually watched the last week's Europa League show, my best bet was FCSB against RFS. I just think the Latvian side are miles out of that depth. I really do. No offense to them. I think they're the worst team in the Europa League. Whoever's got them on their fixture schedule, I think they can chalk up 3 points. They belong in the Conference League, really, if that. And the reason they've got here is because, you know, they are the champions of their own country and they can drop down into the level. Well done to them. I liked how they went about the approach in the first game in Romania. I think they're kind of here to have a good time. They know that they're probably going to be outclassed, but they want to throw a few punches before getting knocked down themselves. And yeah, Galatasaray, look at all their games the last 2 years, really. It's an absolute glutton of goals. And I mean, young boys beat them in qualifying for the Champions League. That's not looking great now, is it? So I think they can be got at Galatasaray, but they should have far too much for this Latvian team. Over 3
Mate,
goals.
I'm just looking at their goals they've scored in the last few games, Galatasaray. 5, 5, 3, 3, 3, 3. Admittedly, they let 3 in at the weekend, didn't they? But they've got my boy Gabriel Sara there. Osman's obviously gone and joined them as well. They've got a whole absolute cavalcade of stars, isn't they? They could rack up a big score tonight.
I say over 3 Asian goals. I mean, Galatasaray could cover it on this by themselves. The handicap I think we're looking at about 4-1 here, something like that. I think RFS might score. I think they'll get a chance and they'll take it. But I thought I'd start that off. That's a 12:45 Eastern. Over 3 Asian goals. If you don't like going on goal line, to take the handicap on Galatasaray -1.5, or combine them both in a parlay.
That's a great start.
Decent,
I'm tempted now to get the ladder out on Galatasaray goals. Over 2.5, 1 plus 108, over 3.5 plus 290, and over 4.5 plus 600. Let's get it on.
I don't think they'll stop. I mean, they might rotate a bit, but everyone wants to get in on the action here. And it could be a little bit of a really lopsided contest, here. I fear a little bit for RFS. At some point, I think someone's going to absolutely smash them to pieces. To be honest with you, I mean, they were beaten big in the first game anyway against one of the more average teams. Let's go for a match that you like. It's not actually on the graphic. I forgot to put Spurs on the graphic. I mean, I can't believe that. One of the bigger interest games. Ferencvaros, they're going to Hungary. Spurs here tonight. I mean, they were quite lucky, I thought, to actually beat Qarabag in game week 1. Certainly by the margin they did. But in form, I mean, they're the favourites to win the Europa League. What's your pick for the game? Ferencvaros, I've got to be honest, I don't know a lot about them, the Hungarian team, but this is why you're here, Jack.
Oh, yeah. My extensive knowledge of Hungarian football. Yes, right. How long have you got? Stand back. It's a moment I've been waiting. This is the platform I've been waiting for. To be fair, with this game, I've got them just in a parlay that I put together for the end of the show, didn't I? But I'd fancy goals in it. I think that Spurs got their tails up at the moment. I talked about them extensively on the Premier League show, which should be dropping later on today. And they've got Brighton, obviously, at the weekend. But how they're playing at the moment, very impressive against Manchester United at the weekend. And, yeah, to be fair to them, they were down to 10 men against Qarabag for a long while, weren't they? And they ran out, to keep a clean sheet. I know Qarabag were massive outsiders in that one, but they got the job done. So they've got a lot of attacking talent. We know that. They scored 3 goals against Manchester United without arguably that kind of talisman, I suppose, in Son. And there's a couple of players in banging good form. And I tell you what, Dominic Solanke has made a real difference to that side because he's just exactly what they need. They've got a player there that can link the play up so well, like Harry Kane used to do. He's going to get that comparison really all season, isn't he? But, he's now scored in each of his last 3 games, which is a great confidence boost when you're going over there for $60-70 million that they paid for him. And he's linked up well with those players. And you've got Brennan Johnson, who was getting a load of stick at the start of the season. That was performed very well at Forest for them to pick him up and bring him in. He struggled to fit in a little bit, which was understandable. He's still a young kid, really, and going over to coming to London and playing. He's now scored in each of his last 4 games, so they've got players and strikers in good form. And I think what they've stumbled upon is a really good tactic with those 2-8s in Madison and Kulusevski that are pulling the strings in the middle of the park and creating plenty of chances. So, and they've obviously got the rampage in Mickey van der Ven just to roar forward when they need to, setting top speed records, land speed records.
What's the bet? What's the best bet for this game overall? Then, Jack, remind people.
If we're looking for a single, I'm going to go with one of the 2 guys that I there mentioned. I think Spurs will score a couple tonight at least. In this one, I'm just going to quickly check on the odds for the goals here because I will go with a goal scorer and Dominic Solanke's plus 150. I'm gonna stick with Brennan Johnson at plus 230. I just think he's a guy at the moment who his confidence has been boosted so much that he's just finding himself. Funnily enough, he's finding himself in the right place at the right time, which tends to happen when you suddenly get that confidence back. Don't you? You're not on your heels. You're suddenly on your front foot and you're anticipating and things drop for you. So Brennan Johnson to score at any time would be my lean on that one.
Just going through the comments now. Emmanuel, welcome in. Galatasaray, first half money line and Roma money line at plus 200. GRC, that looks quite a tasty one. If I mean, we're going to talk about the Roma game soon, but yeah, that could taste the odds. Chris says he got some winners yesterday. One of the few people who did win yesterday, so well done there. MLS was the place to be betting. Adam Thompson, Man United double to lose against Porto and Villa, plus 580. Placed it on Monday. I mean, I like Porto and I do like Villa as well, I must say, Adam. Best bet today, over 2.5 goals, was Besiktas Frankfurt, says Gianeppi. That wasn't actually a game I looked at. So many games you can't.
So many, isn't there? So
I know.
many.
Lugano, Dave Clark says Lugano. I like them as well. I'm going to talk about them. I like them on the handicap. Steve says it was on Elise to score from outside the area, and then that great save from Emmy. I mean, that's 25-1. I mean, that's a gut wrencher, isn't it? Fox says he can't trust Galatasaray on the handicap, but he likes the goals. So many comments coming through here. Great to see everyone. Florence Nightingale. Good afternoon, Steve. How's my ankle? Am I getting out and about? Not enough. It's 6 weeks now, Florence, and it really felt stiff today. I don't know what I can do. Is there any experts out there on ankles and physios and all that? Because
Florence Nightingale surely is one of the best experts you could be asking.
It just isn't quite healing to the level I want it to be. But
we get some right blasts from the past on this here, don't we? It's good. It makes me feel quite young.
I said yesterday, I'm just waiting for William the Conqueror to pop up here.
I'm sure it will come soon.
For someone. So like it to score first is Duncan Evans. Kirk are welcome in as well. Byron Muriel going to play Lyon and Frankfurt draw no bet. Pizza money on AZ at Alkmaar and Ajax on the money line. Again, I mean, the Ajax game, I didn't even look at the Ajax game. Your best bet for the early kickoffs here at 12:45 Eastern, Jack. It is Real Sociedad against Anderlecht. Now, I don't know anyone who ever likes to bet on the overs in a Real Sociedad game, and you are not going to book the trend because it's the unders all the way.
I am not. Yes, I'm not. I'm going to bring it down. We're being too excited in this early part of the show, talking overs, talking goals, talking about the 353 games on the slate tonight. So let's simmer it down a bit. Real Sociedad, Anderlecht, under 2.5 goals at -118, and I found that a little bit of a surprising price, to be fair. So I was going to take advantage of it. It's been a poor start from them across the season, hasn't it? So far in La Liga, a big win from at the weekend has given a little bit of breathing space between them and the bottom three. We're used to talking about Sociedad as far as the top 6, the top 4 is concerned, but not this season so far. So they need to quickly put that right. 3-0 against Valencia, and it's helped them out because up to that point, they'd scored 3 goals in 7 La Liga games, hadn't they? Which is atrocious. It's terrible.
Shocking is that. But there's a lot of low-scoring teams in La Liga this season that get them sucked into these. Well, not sure what's the opposite of a shootout, a drab, whatever you want to call it. Let's make a word for it. But yeah, I mean, under 2.5 goals here. Is this priced? I mean, if this was a La Liga game, you're probably looking at a 2 or 2.5 goal line, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think, as I say, even those goals against Valencia at the weekend, they were late, weren't they? Late in the day. There you go. Ask and you shall receive, Steve. Ask and you shall receive.
That's quite impressive how someone set that up so quickly, actually.
Very impressive. Yeah, very impressive. I wonder who that is. Well, obviously it's William the Conqueror. I don't need to ask that. So, look, a 1-1 with Nice on match day 1. I don't know how you rate that performance. Is that, you're obviously the league expert.
Good result. Solid result for both. I think would take a draw, and I mean Anderlecht are not a Belgian team I'm not familiar with recently. They used to be in the Champions League all the time, but they're now sort of below the top 3 in Belgium a lot, aren't they? So
they've struggled, haven't they? Because obviously Vincent Kompany was there a few seasons ago, and we've seen where he's ended up. He's done a very good career path there. They've sacked the manager already this season after a pretty sluggish start. That was Brian Reamer, who was at Brentford for a few seasons, and so they've brought in David Hubert as their interim manager at this moment. So they're still looking for a manager. He picked up that win on match day 1, but it's their only win in their last 6. And neither of these sides are scoring goals. So that just leads you absolutely to the door of under 2.5 goals in this. So Sociedad, 9 games this season. This must be one of, if not Nigel Seeley's favourite Spanish side. 9 games this season, 15 goals in those games, 7-4, 8 against, turgid, average 1.67. Is that a thing? 6 of those 9 have gone under 2.5 goals. Anderlecht, not too much better, as you said. They're down in 7th in the Belgian top flight. Got their caretaker boss in charge at the moment. 12 games this season, 14 goals scored. The key thing for me here is they've only conceded 9. So with Sociedad struggling to score, I know Olafabal is back, but they're struggling to score against an Anderlecht side. They've only conceded 9 in the league. So their average across their games so far is 1.92. So both well under as an average is concerned. And they've already had the qualifier, haven't they, to get to this stage, which is against Dinamo Minsk, and they've won both those games 1-0. So that says all you need to know about how they're set up and how they're going about their business. So 8 out of their 12 have gone under this season as well. Combined, that's 14-21. And if we're talking about implied odds in this one, that's 67% of the games these two sides have played between them have gone under. Would be implied odds of minus 203. So I think we're getting plenty on side here with two sides that just struggle in front of goal.
Kirk says Sociedad money line under 3.5 is plus 105. I think you could look at Real Sociedad to win to 0. They'll probably control the game. What's my thoughts on Lazio against Nice? I quite like the under, Kingsley. I think Nice are going to come here and try and get a point. They'll take a draw here. Lazio, I've not seen enough of them this year to get a full opinion, but I'd be looking on the under 2.75 goal line there for that game, Kingsley. Qarabag Malmo. There's been a few questions about this game, and I'm going to give my opinion on this. I think Malmo have struggled in the first 2 games. This is a tough place to go. Genuinely a tough place to go. You're in Azerbaijan here. It's a long trek. Teams in the second half struggle away from home. Qarabag to win the second half would be a good bet. I wouldn't want to be putting off anyone on the money line at minus 110 on Qarabag. But if I was betting on the game, I've got a lean on over 2.75 goals at minus 110. I just think Malmo will feel like this is a winnable fixture. I mean, if it was like a normal group, you'd go here, probably take a point. But because of they've just lost against Rangers in the opener, I think they're going to have to come here with a more attacking game plan. So I'll be looking at the goals. Say Qarabag second half, usually a good bet in those matches in Azerbaijan. There's some questions. Besiktas Frankfurt, was this a game that was on your radar at all, Jack? Is this an early game or a late game? I need to actually have a look about this. This is that's Conference League, isn't it? That's a Conference League game, I do believe. So many of the fixtures. We've got to talk about Olympiacos Braga.
Is Europa. If you remember rightly, last week Frankfurt were in that bonkers game, wasn't it? Which was 3-3, and that was against Victoria Plzen.
Right. Yeah. There we go. Frankfurt. This is a late kickoff, so we can talk about that. We've still got to get through a game that you've got a lot of interest in. Olympiacos, the Conference League champions. They did me a turn last year. Quite liked them. They won me some money in across a few ties, and I'm going to get one of their shirts. I think they've got to be my Greek team. But they're against Braga
red, though,
here.
Steve, isn't it?
Well, yes, yeah, it would be a rare. Well, there's white on there as well, so we'll do that. But plus 120 favourites. This actually caught my eye because I thought Braga would be the favourites here, or at least to pick them on the money line. Olympiacos, they're a decent team, but I think Braga are always a side that have got a lot of European experience. Plus 120 for the hosts, though, here. Now, your bet for the game, you're looking actually a same game parlay here, Jack, and you've got a player prop that you want to talk about.
I've put them in a parlay with at the end, haven't I, with a few teams just to put a bit of it's the start of the weekend, isn't it? Ding, ding, ding. I'm calling the start of the weekend. It's a Thursday. I've worked in London long enough to know that this is when the weekend begins. So just trying to put a little bit of fun tokens in the pocket ahead of, say, the official weekend. But I like this one as far as you could play it as a single as far as over 2.5 goals is concerned. This is dripping with narrative. There's loads of side plots to this one as well, isn't there? You've got Jose Mandelabor as far as the manager at Olympiacos is concerned. Won this with Sevilla a couple of seasons ago, as you rightly say. Won the Conference League last season as well. And their home European matches last season, Olympiacos averaged 3.67 goals per game. So plenty. You kind of don't normally associate Olympiacos with goal frenzy.
No, you don't. You like draws or 1-0 wins historically. But times change. You've got to get with the times, haven't you? Teams change as well.
Managers come and go, don't they? Tactics come and go, and that kind of lets off the page. 33 goals in 9 home ties for Olympiacos last season. So, plenty to like about that. And against Braga, they've already played 7 games in Europe, Steve. I thought I'd kind of nodded off for a few months and woken up, like 7 games in Europe already. And 5 of their 7 have gone over 2.5 goals. including the last 4, when they had a little bit of a late flurry last weekend to get it over the line, didn't they? And they've got Carlos Carvajal as far as their manager, who was very, very briefly in charge of Olympiacos last season. And he managed to last at the dizzy heights of 11 matches. And I think he won 5 of those. But he lost 2 to Panathinaikos. And that
gets you the sack, doesn't it? That sort of thing.
Thumb down. Yeah.
Yeah, big thumb down.
So fans of English soccer would probably remember him best as a decent spell in charge of Sheffield Wednesday, not such a decent spell in charge of Swansea for 6 months after that. And he's been around the world. He's like Phileas Fogg. He's been around the world since then. And he normally lasts about 80 days as well in most of his jobs. So it's, it's been an interesting career for him. But he's back at Braga, where I think he had about another like 10 or 11 game spell earlier in his career. But yeah, plenty of goals going on there. And they've got a guy up front for them who I've been very interested in. If you're looking at a form dog at the moment, Bruma, who plays for Braga, possibly one to get on in running rather than prior to the game, because his goals have been so late. If you look at it, he scored 4 goals in his last 3 games. Prior to last week's match day 1, he scored in the league in the 83rd minute. Then he scored both those goals for Braga last week, 88th minute equaliser and then a 90 plus 5th minute penalty to get the win. And then at the weekend in the league, back in the league, he scored 90 plus 3 again. So he's obviously got good stamina, this boy, and he comes strong at the end of these games. So if you want to maybe keep your powder dry and get on him in running, you'll get a very decent price on that. And he's also got some good odds as far as his shots and shots on target are concerned as well. He's had 2, 6, and 5 shots, 1, 2, and 3 shots on target, and you get him plus
Bruma.
money for over 2.5. So Bruma, yeah, he's plus 335 to score. So if you fancy that run to continue, he scored in each of his last 3, as I said, 4 goals in total. And if you fancy him to repeat what he did last week and score 2 goals, he's 25 to 1, plus 2,500. So but in good form at the moment, and in a game where we should see, given all the stats on that, overs hit. So we should see a few goals, and that's about minus 120. I think if you want to play that as a single, as an overs play.
Just looking back at some of the comments here, Rob says, I've got a huge parlay alive. Last leg, Porto money line. Let it ride or bet a Man United double chance saver. Hedge or not, I don't know. It depends on your own situation. If you've got a massive payout, Rob, then you cover the bases. But you've got to take each individual thing there. I'm just looking back again at some more comments here. Qarabag's going to win the game.
Kingsley thinks Man United's going to win.
Abdul says last night was a terrible night. It wasn't a great one for the bettors. Abdul, no doubt about it. Lazio is an over team now. 2 guys saying that. Lazio are apparently an over team. I've not seen enough of them. I've got to be honest this year. Nice for me. I think that they're going to try and get a point. I think whether or not they get sucked into a shootout, let's see. Kingsley likes both teams score. Yes, I presume for Frankfurt, Besiktas. Beggar's End back in unders is a miserable existence. It can be awful sometimes. It can be
also a profitable one.
Henry VIII was surprised by Real Madrid and Bayern last night. I think we all were. I don't think anyone tipping up Villa or Lille. If you want to see the team total. First half over 1.5. They've got TNS, I think, in the Conference League. Let's have a look now at the Conference League. Actually, the early games. There's a match I just want to go through here. I put 3 up on the board there. Cercle Brugge against St. Gallen, Dinamo Minsk against Hearts, and Lecce Warsaw against Real Betis. Real Betis have got a massive game of the weekend, by the way, against Sevilla. Big derby down there, and I do wonder. I wouldn't be backing them at minus money here. They might well be distracted. Can't say I really know a lot about Lecce Warsaw this season, but that just feels like a trap to me. Would you back a Scottish team that's not the old firm away from home as a favourite in Europe? Not for me either. Dinamo and Minsk, I think that's a long trek for Hearts. It really would not be. I mean, it's plus 155. It's not like they're a jolly or anything. But
they're in terrible form as well, aren't they, Hearts? They got rid of Stephen Naismith as their manager very recently, and they did pick up a draw at the weekend, but that was at home, and it was to Ross County. So we put that one into context. Prior to that, they'd lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games on the spin, no wins in about a year. So I wouldn't be taking them on at that.
Anyone backing Hearts in the chat? Anyone like them? I couldn't be having that. I mean, I don't know whether I could stomach betting on Dynamo Minsk either. Yeah, that just
there's other options out there, I think, Steve.
there is. St. Gallen match, Cercle Bruges St. Gallen. This is I like the over. This is my best bet for the early kickoffs in the Conference League. Over 2.75 goals at -117. Two teams that I watched a lot of them in qualifying, actually, for whatever reason. It's just the way it goes. And I liked what I saw. There's players in attack for both sides who know where to hit the back of the net. And I think, again, both will look at this game and think it's winnable. St. Gallen, I think, top 4 in the Swiss League now. That anyone could win that league this year. And Cercle Bruges, they're not one of the top Belgian sides, which is good news for St. Gallen. I think it'll be an offensive game. I'd prefer, if I could, I'd take both teams score. Yes, I'd love to get the 1-1 draw covered if possible. But that's -182. So we've got to go with the over 2.75 line there. St. Gallen away to Cercle Bruges. Trying to go through the comments again here. Real Betis is trash away from home, says Foxy. The Hearts game, I'm not going to be betting or watching. I don't blame you, Clever. Shamrock Rovers draw double chance. Hearts is the wrong team favoured. Yeah, that's just wrong. It doesn't feel right to me.
Let's fade Hearts. Come on.
Let's lump on Dinamo Minsk, shall we? There's too many games on the card. Yeah, there really is too many games with Europa. They need to spread it out a bit more if they can. There were actually 2 conference games yesterday, in fairness. Now, I think that is it. Oh, no, Hoffenheim, Dinamo Kiev. Quick lean here. Well, it was not a lean, it's a bet. You like the goals, Hoffenheim, Dinamo Kiev.
Mate, simply in the parlay at the end. Yeah. It's a +629 parlay I've got, which I'll put some of the shorter.
What is that parlay? Let's do the parlay now because people might want to get on early with these early kickoffs. It's a 3-match parlay, right?
4. Yeah. 4-match parlay. There's 3 early kickoffs and then we're saving one for later so we can cheer it home.
What are the 3 early?
Yeah, Hoffenheim versus Dinamo Kiev. But basically, when you've got a Bundesliga team at home playing, generally you're looking at goals. Kiev got spanked 3-0 by Lazio last time out in this competition. Ferencvaros versus Tottenham were covered already, so overs in that one. And Olympiacos versus Braga already covered. So those are the 3 early ones, and it ends with Rangers versus Lyon.
Right, there you go. So we'll touch on that. We're going to talk about that Lyon game in detail soon. Foxy said he's still waiting for Steve to say something about my favourite German team, Heidenheim. Do you know what? I say this with gritted teeth, Foxy. I think Heidenheim win today, which is not good news for them, is it? I never usually get them right too often. But they should be beating Olimpia Ljubljana. They really should. They're -175 on the money line, so I wouldn't take that. But I think that's got to be a home win. And now we are going to move on to these later games. I've got some graphics up for these. Elfsborg Roma is an interesting one. Porto Man United and Rangers Lyon. We've got plenty to say about all these 3 games. Porto Manchester United. Now, can you possibly give me a reason why you would back Manchester United in this game in any form? Because, I can't believe the price actually on Porto. There has been some money on Porto today, and that now +140. A lot of people were getting on them draw no bet last night. That still feels too big. Like, Porto are a decent team. Manchester United are terrible at the moment. What's your thoughts on this game? How do you think it goes?
Foxy's called it. He's going for Man United to win. And do you know what? The only thing I could probably say is, again, it's something I've mentioned earlier today, that Eric Ten Hag just pulls a result out of nowhere. Just as when you're going, they're never going to get anything there. And that's the only reason, that's the only thing I could give. I can't give you any tactical, statistical, or any other backing for Manchester United other than they just find a win from somewhere, from nowhere. And I was quite pleased I got this game tonight because I'm quite hot on Villa at the weekend. And I thought going there, they might that be the one they pull out of nowhere, but it could be tonight. So, but if I'm taking it completely subjectively, I think still at that price, even though money have come for them, I think Porto are a brilliant price tonight. They really are.
It feels a lot, doesn't it? Porto. I watched them game week 1. They actually rotated the team away to Buda Glimt. Thought they'd go up there with the second team, and they got turned over. But I think they'll take this game a lot more seriously. And they nearly knocked Arsenal out of the Champions League last year. Right,
yeah.
I know it's a different manager now and all that and all that sort of thing, but Porto at +140. The handicap draw no bet or -1/4. I couldn't be going anywhere near Manchester United, but you are right; they do sometimes pull a rabbit out of the hat. from nowhere
That's the only
without
thing, like,
any warning,
yeah,
don't they? And
yeah.
something, yeah. I mean, I think they lose the next two, and I think he could get fired on Monday morning. Genuinely, if he loses these next two games, but
Yeah, we
we'll have to
touched
wait
on
and
it on
see.
the Premier League show today, but it's the kind of time to sack, isn't it? With the international break
Mm.
coming up, you've got 2 weeks to kind of clear the decks and get your new guy in and give him a little bit of settling in time prior to then getting on underway with the fixtures. So there's 2 or 3 managers in the Premier League certainly that are looking over their shoulder a little bit at the moment, that they're in a bit of trouble. So, and obviously Eric Ten Hag's been in this situation, it feels like, for 2.5 years, really, to be fair.
I know.
Yeah, as I say, they look terrible against Tottenham, and it's the same problems, isn't it, that just keep coming up. Different personnel,
They certainly
same
do.
issues, and yeah, this looks a tough venue to go to.
Rangers Lyon. Rangers are plus 143. Slight favourites here. Lyon at plus 170. The goal line is knocking on the door of 2.75 to 3 now. This is an intriguing match. Now, the Old Firm, I betted against the Old Firm in match day 1. And they turned me up. Rangers were very good, I thought. Now, Rangers are a team I never usually like to bet against in Europe. They find something, especially here at Ibrox. It's almost like written into my betting rules that I wouldn't really ever want to oppose them here on home turf. And I certainly wouldn't be back. Lyon are not a team I trust. I said this on the show we recorded today with James Eastham. I don't trust them at all. There's I described them as the Anthony Joshua of Ligue 1, actually. They've got plenty of big punches in them, but they, I'm not quite sure how strong their own chin is, if you know what I mean. At the other end, they can be exploited. So Rangers, do you see Rangers get back in that win up in match day 1 here, Jack? I mean, this is going to tempt people on both sides, I think. I think there's going to be Lyon backers out there and Rangers backers. Which side are you on? And are you looking at a different market?
Well, they're in the parlay, aren't they, as an overs game, this one. Rangers, if you're going to back them, it's when they're at home, although they did go to Malmo and get the win last time out. That surprised me, to be fair. I'm not a big fan of Rangers as far as them at this moment in time, but they've won 4 on the spin now and haven't conceded a goal. So they're in decent nick. Again, it's always hard when you're comparing, because you look at Scotland, they play Dundee United, Dundee and Hibs. It's what are they playing at? And obviously Lyon have won their last 2 as well. I think that was a good win against Olympiacos last time out. I ain't going to lie. You're going to be a better judge of this than me because of your knowledge of Lyon and where that compares. So how you're feeling about Lyon would lead me to which side of the fence I'd probably go on.
The problem with Lyon is they're just up and down like a yo-yo. I can't get a good read on them. They've got so many weapons. The squad is so lopsided with attackers. Like, there's just so many. At the back, I don't trust them this season, but they could easily, if they play well, they could get the win. I mean, on paper, they're a better side than Rangers, but Rangers often bring out a performance in Europe, especially at home. The atmosphere can get really crazy, actually. Yeah. Not a good place to go if they get on top of you. They've got a few. Foxy says, is the under the play if the goal line settles at 3? Probably not. I don't think I'd want to be betting under in any Lyon game because you can just go mental. Giuseppe says Lyon won there 3 years ago. Yeah, 8 forwards in the group. Absolutely spot on. Lyon draw no bet, says Byron. So I thought there'd be a few split opinions on this game. That parlay then, to finish it off, it is a 4-game parlay.
Yeah.
Total odds. What have we got total odds for this, Jack?
Plus 629.
And it's the overs in 4 games. Just run us through those 4 games again.
Sure. Hoffenheim. I'll just give you the home sides. Hoffenheim, Ferencvaros, Olympiacos, and Rangers.
There you go. Over 2.5. 4-leg parlay at plus 620. That will...
I tell you, I know this is a bit of a prop angle, Steve, but a player that I'd generally like to have a little dabble on in Rangers games, and I'll be honest, I'm not bet on Rangers at all yet this season, is Tavernier. Generally, fairly well advanced, set pieces, etc. And he's plus 133 to have a shot on target tonight. So he's a player that I do tend to get involved.
Oh, he's on the penalties, isn't he? He's a popular anytime scorer pick for a lot as well. He does get on a lot of penalties. Free kicks, right? I think as well, maybe. I can't say I watch a lot of the SPL these days. Let's go back through some more comments here. Wilfred says Chelsea, Galatasaray, and Spurs win plus over 2.5 goals. Byron likes Lyon draw no bet. Mikey Moore starting for Spurs apparently, says Steve. Not seen the lineups yet for any of those, but we move to Elfsborg Roma. This is there's a lot of comments about this game earlier, quite a lot of fancying, I think, the goals and Roma. Swedish side Elfsborg got the second worst coefficient in the Europa League of any side.
Just quickly, Steve, sorry to butt in. I've got that lineup here, the Spurs lineup. There's no none of the players that I mentioned who are actually going to be starting this, but one of your good pals is starting. Timo Werner starts, so make of that what you will. But there's it's Vicario, Bergvall, Bissouma, Davis, Gray, Lancashire, Moore, Porro, Romero, Sarr, and Werner.
Werner anytime scorer. Who would anyone got the balls to back Werner anytime here? Not for me. I don't know what odds he is. If he's, I could. But he's about.
I'll find out for you.
Plus 140. But that'd be a good question. Elfsborg Roma. I love what Elfsborg have done. Get through qualifying here. Put up a very good fight in match day 1 against AZ. Back the goals that night and cashed with it. How they're going to approach this game, I'm not sure. Before last week, all their fixtures in Europe were under, actually. So I just wonder now, because they're facing Roma are perceived as a better team than AZ, bigger reputation anyway. I wonder if they might just sit back a bit here, Elfsborg, in this game. And Roma have had a change of manager already this season. They could do here. I think they only drew the first game. Very, very low scoring match against Bilbao in terms of chances and XG. This should be probably a little bit more open. Roma minus 124. That's the sort of price that could look really big come the end of the night. I've got to be honest. Because on paper, there is quite a big golfing class, but Elfsborg are having a dream fairy tale run. You got any thoughts on this? I've not actually got a bet for it, but if I had to go anything, I would go over just. But it's not an easy game, but Roma should probably get the win.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of love for Roma. I followed the markets a bit, and it seemed that there was the public money is behind Roma in this one. I don't know if that's supported by the boys and the guys at Bet Rivers. I know you got some info on that from them, but that seemed to be how I read the markets in this one. If I'm gonna have a bet on this particular game, I was just then trying to look to check his price out. Yeah, it's still there. It's decent. I'd probably go with the striker for Roma, Dovbyk, who's plus money again to score. And I think some of these kind of quality strikers that have been bought for big money playing against sides that have got nowhere near that kind of funds. And he's plus money again tonight to get on the score sheet. He's obviously scored a couple recently as well, hasn't he? And Dovbyk is plus 163 to score tonight. So if starting, yeah.
Besiktas Frankfurt, we've got a lot of people wanted to talk about this game. I've just looked into it now. I would be looking at goals based on results from what we've seen. I've seen obviously a bit of Frankfurt. Kiel at the weekend was crazy, by the way. That could have ended like 6 or 7-2 to Frankfurt, I think. Besiktas got beaten big by Ajax on game week 1. A lot of people were on Besiktas that game. Ajax popular fade, and I've seen a few wanting to fade Ajax again tonight in Prague, Slavia Prague. Ajax, not a team that anyone wants to be betting on these days at all. Don't trust them. But Besiktas lost 4-0 there, which I think is a bit of a concern. Last week, they got beat by Lugano, I think. They beat Lugano in qualifying, and then to get into this phase of the competition. Yeah, the goal line. I'm just looking at the line now for this.
6 goals in both those games against Lugano, weren't there? And then 4 in that game against Ajax. So there's a good chance. Depends what sort of side Frankfurt puts out. They've got Bayern Munich at the weekend, haven't they? So if they beat Munich at the weekend, they go top of the table. So it's how are they going to go about this one? I think if they'd have beaten Plzen on match day 1, they might well have rotated a bit heavier. But because they didn't, it might well be a fairly strong Frankfurt lineup for this one, but they've got goals in them, obviously, as we've seen.
We have got some Conference League games later on. Chelsea against Gent, Just a quick line on Chelsea here. There's going to be a lot of rotation, surely. We don't know the 11. Minus 560. Are there a nice little parlay piece here against Gent? Would you be including them? They should probably get the job done, I think.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't include them at plus 560
No.
for what it gets you. It's probably not worth the risk. But yeah,
No.
I'd be shocked if they didn't win that game. And yeah, they're one of those sides that certainly can have the ability to rotate at will. They haven't even got Cole Palmer in their squad for this tournament, have they? This competition, he's been given midweeks off. So and they've got one of the other 47 first teamers that they can bring in instead. But the thing, what he seems to have done, what I would say, is that he seems to have got the team fighting to get into that first 11, and then when they come off the bench, they actually look to put on a bit of a show, but not in a selfish way. In a like, I can be part of this team. You know, we saw Nkunku score a hat trick the other week, didn't we? Admittedly in a League Cup tie, but and he scored a couple of goals recently as well. But he's not starting in the Premier League 11, so he seems to have that massive problem that Pochettino had, where trying to keep so many people happy and working on it at his best 11. He seems to have got that done pretty early in the piece, and is proving well as far as the results he's got. That Brighton game was chaos last week.
Just a couple of bets that I've got for the Conference League here from these late kickoffs, and it involves these two games. Lugano, someone mentioned them earlier. I like them as well. Minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap against HJK Helsinki. Not going well, HJK. They're not even top of their own league, which is very worrying at this stage of the season. They don't look like they're going to win the Vikas Liga this season. Not a good version of HJK. Lugano, a Swiss side, actually one of the better Swiss sides these days, and usually full of goals. I think they'll at least win the game. Handicap minus 1.25 Asian floats my boat. And if you want a dog for the day, call it a hot dog, whatever you want to call it. I quite like the Swedish side, Djurgården, away to LASK Linz. Draw double chance is something worth looking at minus 106, but on the money line at plus 335. Simple reason, let's fade the Austrian Bundesliga. Not a great week for it, although Rapid Vienna are more higher up on my list. Lask Linz, I don't think it's the sort of place that Djurgården will fear going. And from what I've heard, this league is on a bit of a downtrend at the minute. So just a small bet here on Djurgården. The double chance I quite like at minus 106 for a stronger pick there. You've got Plzen Ludogorets just to finish off the soccer. Victoria Plzen, against Ludogorets. This is Czech Republic against Bulgaria. And what's the pick here?
This is the over 2.5 goal bet for me. Minus 109. I'll have to say Plzen because I think Plzenia. Is that right?
Plzenia, yeah. Dan Roebuck got me that pronunciation correct. This is Europa League, by the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Europa League. So back to Europa League. Yeah, I'm going back and forth.
It's tough.
Victoria Plzenia against Ludogorets over 2.5 goals, minus 109.
Simply lots of goals in it. Yeah. 3-3 against Eintracht Frankfurt last week. Saw that they've got the firepower to compete with Frankfurt, and conceded obviously a fair few as well. With interest, got a bit of a direct form line with these two, which is hard in this competition, isn't it? Ludogorets lost 2-0 to Slavia Prague last week, and 4 days prior to that, Slavia Prague beat Plzenia 3-0 in the league. So it's something that we can compare, that they both got turned over by Slavia Prague and by similar scorelines. This is another side with a new man in charge of Ludogorets, and this is Igor Jovicevic in charge there, who won the title with Shakhtar Donetsk a couple of years ago, then went to Saudi, and he's now rocked up at Ludogorets. A pretty simple method here. I've got two sides that didn't win last week, need to look to get a win on the board, but they've also got confidence. They're not losing games in their domestic league. They're in the top. Ludogorets are top, and Plzen are third. So they've got some good results they put together, and they'll take positives from the result they got last week as well. So I think they're going to go at it and looking to try and win this game, which will generally lead to goals. And I think at minus 109, that price caught my eye for over 2.5 goals. I've had a quick look, by the way, going back to Galatasaray. It looks like they've rotated quite heavily as well. Sarah's playing. They've got Icardi up front. Yilmaz is playing. Mertens is playing. Akon is playing. So, that again, Torreira in the middle, so that they should have enough there, shouldn't they? As we talked about with that side to hit a few tonight.
That probably would be my best bet from the early games, that over 3 goals, RFS Galatasaray. My best bet for the later kickoffs would be Lugano on the handicap in the Conference League, -1.25. Your best bet for the whole night is the under, isn't it? Real Sociedad against Anderlecht, unless you've changed your mind.
No. I am liking. You've talked me into the ladder in those Galatasaray goals tonight, so I'll be getting on that. But yeah, Sociedad Anderlecht just screams unders to me. That looks like a 1-0, possibly a 2-0 all day long. So yeah, we'll see. And those people love playing the unders, so that'll be my best bet, especially in the early kickoffs. The game we then talked about would be the one in the later kickoffs, and then say the parlay covers both.
We're going to finish the show with the NFL. This is when put your NFL bets in the chat, put your MLB bets in the chat here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Atlanta Falcons. The Buccaneers are plus, they're even money. Slight road dog here. The point spread is plus -1.5, which is, you don't often get that in NFL, do you? This is pretty much a pick 'em game, really. The points line is 43.5. Just as some stats about this game from the traders today, 71% of the tickets are on the Buccaneers. 58% of the money line is on the Buccaneers as well. 83% of the over-under tickets are on the over. There's some trends to really consider here that stood out. Each of the Falcons' last 7 Thursday night games have gone under the points line, so be careful if you're backing the overs here. The Falcons have failed to cover the spread in 7 straight games as a favourite against NFC opponents. So that's quite a significant trend. The Buccaneers have won 6 of their last 7 games as underdogs. And just a couple of player props here. Mike Evans has recorded 75 or more receiving yards in 4 of his last 5 games against the Falcons. And Baker Mayfield has recorded 289 or more passing yards in 4 of his last 5 games against NFC opponents. I don't have a bet for the game, but I know you had a good look at this one earlier, Jack. You've got a couple of selections for us in the NFL. Some trends. I mean, the under points line has been, I think a lot of these Thursday games have been going under the short week. Simon Holden talked about this on the shows he was on. But you're not going on the points here. You're looking directly on the money line.
I had a little play on Bucks on the money line. Plus 100 earlier today. And then just before we came on the show, you did tell me that's where a lot of the money's gone today. So
money for the dog.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that fitted. And you mentioned him, Mike Evans, a little while ago. I've had a play on him over 4.5 receptions, which is plus 102 as well, which obviously ties in with what you were talking about as far as his reception yardage is concerned. And I just saw a little bit of going through one of my stat sites that I did. I did flick onto it knowing we're going to briefly talk about NFL. And I was noticing today about the red zone, the fact that the Bucs are one of the most prolific closers in the red zone so far this season, while the Falcons are one of the worst at defending it. So those two go hand in hand. Hence why I decided to take a plunge on the Bucs at plus 100 as a dog against those Falcons. So yeah, that was my couple of looks there. But I did have a nice win on the football on Monday Night Football of the American variety earlier this week. So I mean, good form.
And the Monday Night Football over in the Premier League as well. Good winner for you there, Jack.
It was a good day. It was a good day. Yeah.
Ken Peacock.
I backed Geno Smith, by the way. I was trying to look for what I backed. It was Geno Smith, and I backed his line at plus over 250 passing yards, and I think he had 395. So that was a good day.
Ken Peacock says Bucs over 20.5 team total. And Baker Mayfield over 239.5 passing yards. That does look quite a low line for his passing. And also Tyler Algier over 34.5 rush yards. J-Rods took Chris Goodwin over 64.5 receiving yards. And he's had a nibble of over 90 as well. I like these ladder bets on players that you think are going to do well. I've become quite a ladder better actually in the last 2-3 years in very different ways. I like that, J-Rod, I must say. Clever, it's worth noting that the public side has had the worst against the spread record this season in the past 20 years. Yeah, it's been a good year for the Bucs, hasn't it, on the NFL? It's looking in. This is Sociedad unders for sure. I've never known anyone who likes backing the overs in the Real Sociedad game. You're almost suspicious of someone who likes that. Garrett Wilson over receiving yards this weekend, so Steve Gregory. Been going well, hasn't he, there for the Jets? Bijan Robinson has a hamstring. I read that he was not quite at his best. Bijan Robinson, one of the top players in the NFL. Just some significant bets of the day, and a significant five-figure bet on the Buccaneers money line. They are quite a popular bet, like I said, with the public today. The Bucs also on the handicap. Some winners yesterday. The Mets were very good for in-running bettors live against the Brewers. Not very good, sorry. Two big losers there on the Mets yesterday, and Bayern Munich was the biggest soccer loser yesterday on the -1 Asian handicap. But I mean, that looked good to me at +118, I must say. Looked a safe play. People have been winning on the Orioles under runs line again in the baseball. Under 6, the line went down to. It was still a winner there live. A 5-figure bet. Real Madrid draw double chance. That was a loser, of course. I mentioned that on the show yesterday. That was a big 5-figure bet. Good luck, whatever you are taking today. Over 3.5 field goals, says Giovanni at +105. So much action going on worldwide. I mean, these Europa Conference. I mean, the next time this is on, I don't know who's going to be on the show. I think it might be RJ off the top of my head, but this has been bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Thanks for sticking with us. Yeah. Shakespeare, there he is. Shakespeare, San Diego Padres over the LA Dodgers at +120. I was waiting for Shakespeare.
He always has the last word, doesn't he, Shakespeare?
Absolutely, all day long. But yeah, do gamble responsibly, whatever you're taking. Manic show. So many plays suggested there. Thanks everyone for coming on the chat.
Love that, Steve. Thank you.
Yes, and thanks very much, Jack, as well. That was very good stuff. And see you tomorrow. I'm on with RJ. We're going to be going through the Friday soccer card, and RJ has been winning quite a lot in NFL recently, so I'm expecting some interesting tips ahead of the weekend NFL slate. So all that to look forward to on Betting Weekly Live tomorrow. Take care, y'all. See you next time, and say gamble responsibly.